Delegate Kirill Reznik is with us. He has represented District 39 in the Maryland House of Delegates since 2007, and that includes Gaithersburg, Germantown, Clarksburg, Washington Grove, that whole area of our county. And there he serves as the chairman of the Health and Social Services Subcommittee on Appropriations, overseeing about 40% of the state's budget, and serves on, I would say, a number of committees, joint committees and other kinds of committees, including things like spending affordability, pensions, administrative, executive, and legislative review, just a whole host of different areas that he's involved in our local government. He also has a 25-year career as a project and contract manager in international development, where he was managing all sizes of projects with agencies like the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, another acronym, the Department of State, and other organizations. He, as in his education, he holds a Juris Doctor, so he is a board certified attorney, and has a Master of Arts in International Peace and Conflict Resolution from American University, and also a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations, and a minor in economics from Florida International University. So very well educated. And he was born in Kiev in Ukraine and immigrated with his family as refugees in the late 1970s. And currently lives in Gaithersburg with his wife and his 2 daughters and their 2 dogs, Mickey and Tinkerbell. So I'm very happy to introduce Delegate Reznik to us, and we're excited to hear from you. And I understand you've got so much experience that I kind of just want to lay the floor open to you to tell us what we need to know about public service, about how the state can help businesses in our area, and any of the other experiences that you've had that you think might be of interest to our guests tonight. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, that was quite the introduction. All of that is true. And I know that we could potentially, if anyone is interested, go into some of the details on any of those experiences and what I currently do in the legislature or what I currently do in my professional career. As you know, the legislature is technically deemed part-time. It doesn't feel part-time until our paychecks come, and then it definitely feels part-time. But it is a great ability. It's a great honor to serve District 39. It does incorporate about half of Germantown. It incorporates all the parts of Gaithersburg that are not actually the city of Gaithersburg. So if you don't actually pay taxes in the city of Gaithersburg, but you have Gaithersburg in your address, like I do, that's, it's unincorporated Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village, parts of Clarksburg, the township of Washington Grove, and other parts. And all of that is accurate probably for another couple of months, because we also are going through redistricting right now. So we will see new legislative maps. We're actually in special session right now. The primary reason we're in special session right now is to adopt congressional maps, the new congressional maps. That is happening. In fact, I saw a tweet from a reporter that said that the Senate just adopted the map that we adopted yesterday. So we will see if the governor decides to sign it or veto it or let it go into law without his signature. And then we will see new legislative maps. Those are the ones that affect your state senators and state delegates like myself, probably by January. And so that's where we are right now. So you may live in my district and in a few months you may not, or you may not live in my district and in a few months you may. So we'll see how that turns out. So I do serve on the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee, as the title suggests, is the committee that deals with the state budget. That is our primary responsibility. We also have legislation that we deal with as legislation that directly impacts the state budget, but nothing policy related. But primarily our job is to pass the budget every year. And in fact, it's literally the only thing that we are required by the state constitution to do, is get together and pass a budget for 1 year. And so by that definition, the Appropriations Committee on which I serve in the leadership is the most important function of the legislature. Other committees would argue with me on that, but I have the state constitution to back me up. So we are very much the most important part of the state legislature. Serving as the chairman of the Health and Social Services Subcommittee, it's a very hefty responsibility. As Rebecca said, it's about 40% of the state budget, which as of last year's budget that we passed, the current fiscal year we are in, amounts to approximately $20 billion. That's billion with a B. And there is, excuse me, there is a lot of interaction that we have with the private sector when it comes to the money, the dollars that flow into the state, whether it's direct support to businesses, whether it is, the money that we get through taxation and fees, something nobody likes, but a necessary reality of running the state, or the money that we give out for services that private businesses bid on and implement on behalf of the state. And just like the federal government, a very large portion of the expenditures that we make as a state are not expenditures we make directly, but expenditures that we make through contractors. Those are contractors that are private, they are public. They're either private for-profit, they could be private nonprofit, they could be other public entities like, for example, Montgomery College. And they can be for, we talk contractors, people often immediately think of builders, right? The people who build buildings, people who build roads, people who build bridges, and that is accurate. However, we have a number of services contractors as well, and many of them are nonprofits. So for example, the service contractors that take up the vast majority of my time in my committee are Medicaid providers. Right. So if you are a medical provider, whether you are a doctor or a behavioral health specialist or a developmental disabilities therapist or anything that touches healthcare, and you see patients on Medicaid, which is a very significant portion of our population, I would add, upwards of, I believe, 35% of the state, if not more. Then you are getting that money, those daily rates or those service rates, directly from the state government. And you get it through another contractor that we call a managed care organization, or an MCO, because everything has to have an acronym. And these are folks that we contract with to manage our Medicaid program, and people sign up for MCOs if they're on Medicaid the same way the rest of us would sign up for an insurance company. And in fact, most of the insurance companies in the state are also Medicaid MCOs. So Care First has an MCO, Aetna has an MCO, United has an MCO, and then we have others as well. And so we go through contractors there as well. And every year we need to deal with procurement matters with them, signing contracts, dealing with contract matters. And the same is true for a number of other things. Money we directly send to state hospitals are from the state budget to provide private services at hospitals. Every single, I don't know how many people know this or not, Maryland has a very unique hospital system. We are the only kind of hospital system in the country. We have something called an all-payer model, where every hospital in the state is required to be a nonprofit hospital, and they cannot turn anyone away. That's actually federal law. But we provide care, uncompensated care from the state through the uncompensated care fund that is fed into by the state, hospitals, medical providers, insurance companies, and it actually helps lower rates in the state. And so we have these agreements. It's agreed to by the federal government, renewed on a regular basis, has been that way since the 1970s. I'm actually surprised, frankly, no other state has caught on to this. It's only been almost 50 years because it is a great model. So, but we see a lot of state funds flowing out to a variety, like I said, of businesses. large and small, for-profit and nonprofit, local, statewide, national, et cetera. So there is a lot of interaction between the state, county government, and businesses within our jurisdictions, and maintaining that relationship is critical. It's absolutely critical. You may not always like what we do as business owners. You may not always like what we do. As policymakers, we don't always like what you do with your businesses, your employees, your benefits, your customers. But we have a symbiotic relationship that works best when we have open communication, when we are open and honest with each other, and we have that dialogue back and forth. And at the end of the day, just like any piece of legislation, if nobody's happy, we probably did something right. So I do want to talk a little bit about some of the services that the state does provide to businesses. They fall in a few different categories. I will start off, though, by talking a little bit about starting a business. Now, I will say from the get-go, this is not an experience that I have. And so I'm not speaking through a direct experience. I'm speaking more theoretically. But I want to make a few points before I start talking about, the state working with small businesses. It is important, as somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur, who wants to start a business, whether it be a small business that grows or a small business that stays small. And I have met plenty of small business owners who don't want to have large businesses. They want to have a small business that they maintain and enjoy and keep at that level. So there is a myth out there that the reason businesses fail is because of terribly oppressive taxes and government regulations. And I will say that I have actually I've reviewed surveys done of businesses that have failed. And I will tell you that taxes and oppressive government regulations are not even often in the top 10 in terms of the reasons why businesses fail. The top two reasons are really poor business planning. And so one of the things that I often emphasize to people who want to start businesses is get help in putting together a business plan. And that's one of the things I do want to touch on, which is when I'm bringing it up. And the second thing is undercapitalization, is going in, even if you have a great business plan, going in to an endeavor, not being able to fund the business that you want to fund. And I will say something that's kind of controversial, and not everybody agrees with it, and that's okay. But I am a liberal, and and that is no secret if you have reviewed any of my Facebook posts or Twitter feeds or anything I've done. And I am somebody who believes that if you are starting a business and are undercapitalized and cannot afford to run your business and do it properly, meaning you follow the rules and the regulations, you pay the fees and the taxes that need to be paid, and you take care of the employees that make money for you, then I believe you have no business being in business, at least not yet. So being undercapitalized and making everyone suffer as a result, or poor planning and not having a great business plan and thought through on how you want to structure your business and who you want to sell to and what you want to do, are those two biggest reasons why businesses fail. And so the reason I bring that up is because either through direct help from the state or through partnership with a number of organizations that are both local or statewide, there are services that are out there available to you to help you connect and help you give you that support that you need. Most importantly, and people, undervalue the need for experience and mentorship. There are organizations out there that are specifically designed to get experienced business people to mentor people who have less experience but more enthusiasm for starting new businesses. And you need to take advantage of those folks. And there are organizations that do it generally. There are organizations that do it to promote women and minority businesses, to have as mentors people that look like you and come from a background like you to help you better connect. There are people, there are organizations that provide mentors to the specific type of business that you want to conduct. And they're out there, and I will direct you, little self-promotion, I apologize, but I will direct you to my website. It's reznikformaryland.com, reznikformaryland.com. Under constituent services, there's a drop-down menu for small business resources. And in that section of my website is actually a very long list of resources for small businesses, including links to organizations like I've just mentioned. Particular one, a lot of the local chambers are very good at directing you to resources, and there's links there. And I want to let you know that in Montgomery County, we got a lot of chambers of commerce, and they all do great work. And it's not just the state chamber, and it's not just the county chamber. County chamber's great. I know Gigi very well, and she's wonderful. But we also have a number of smaller local chambers. For example, the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber, Greater Bethesda Chamber, Greater Olney Chamber. We have a lot of them, very hyper-focused on parts of the county. The Montgomery County Chamber has an incredible program if you are a veteran. If you are a veteran and want to start a business providing services to government through these procurement things that I've talked about, they have a program that is now nationwide known. It's the VIP program. It's the Veterans Institute for Procurement. They provide training, they provide mentorship, they provide help in terms of, writing those first proposals. They're incredible. And I was very honored and proud to have helped with their launch over 10 years ago with the VIP program. We had a great 10-year anniversary, I think 2 years ago on Capitol Hill. And it's an incredible program. And you look around the room and you see folks who are very successful government contractors now, who started with very little experience 10 years earlier. So something to look into if what you want to look at is government procurement. Federal procurement, state procurement, local county procurement. In many ways, it's very similar. In many ways, it's very different. How you qualify for it, how you submit bids, the amount of money we're talking about. Obviously, if you want to help design weapon systems for the Department of Defense, we're talking of tens of millions of dollars. If you want to provide groundkeeping services to county or municipal property in the county, you're talking about thousands of dollars. So very different in terms of scope and scale. But there's the resources are there, and whatever you may want to do, I guarantee you there's a government agency that's interested in buying it. Whether it's technology or services or supports or healthcare, whatever it may be. The other thing that I would love for you all to look into is connecting to some of the direct government services that we provide as a state. Not only do we have grant programs within the Department of Commerce, we have programs, every department in the state does procurement. They also encourage small businesses. The Department of Labor has programs that would be very useful to you, whether it is direct support to your business or whether it's guidance in how you manage staff, manage your labor. The Department of Labor is there to help. Department of Commerce, obviously, I already mentioned, but every department, Department of Health, Department of Transportation, the governor in this state has a very large cabinet. In fact, I think the governor has a larger cabinet than the president. We have a lot of departments, and they all do procurement. The state budget, I mentioned that about 40% of the state budget I cover under my subcommittee, about $20 billion last year. So assuming that you are all future successful budding entrepreneurs, I'm assuming that you did that math pretty quickly to figure out that the state budget is probably somewhere in the realm of just over $50 billion. It's a huge budget. It's bigger than most states. We are a wealthy state. We are a successful state. We are a state that has the benefit geographically of bordering the federal government, DC. We have that benefit because we as Maryland gave up land to create the federal government, if you remember your American history. Yes, Georgetown used to be part of Montgomery County, for those of you that do not know. And in fact, little bit of trivia, the only Maryland governor to ever come from Montgomery County was so long ago that he actually was born in Georgetown. And I don't remember his name. It was like 1800s. But yeah, that's a benefit that we have here in the state. We also have a number of semi-independent agencies that operate on their own. They're not directly answerable to the state government, to the governor, to his cabinet, but they are wholly funded. They are created by the government. Two of them are Medco and TEDCO. If you Google Medco, you will come up with a pharmaceutical company based somewhere not in Maryland. So don't Google Medco. It's the Maryland Economic Development Corporation. And that is a group that is tasked with helping to develop Maryland's economy. They have grant programs. They have specific funding, loans, other programs available that can help you to launch your businesses. TEDCO, the Maryland Technology Economic Development Corporation, does exactly the same thing, but they are hyper-focused on technology. Now, it's not very narrow. Technology means a lot of different things. Technology can be, hard tech, coding, robotics, etc. It could also be biotechnology. And that is obviously an industry that we have in spades here in Montgomery County. We have a number of pharmaceutical companies and biotech firms here in Maryland that are doing, frankly, incredible work. And I'm going to highlight two specific types of work. I'm not going to name companies, but there is a large pharmaceutical company here in Gaithersburg that is currently working on a combined COVID and flu vaccine, single shot COVID and flu vaccine that we in the future may end up taking on a regular basis, like we do the flu vaccine now. We have a company here in Maryland doing very, very advanced, and when I say advanced, I mean far along in the process. I don't think they're at human trials yet, but very close to human trials for an AIDS vaccine. I'm not sure it's a vaccine or a cure, it's one or the other, but this is the work that we are doing here in Maryland. We mapped the human genome in Montgomery County at Human Genome Sciences, also in Rockville, Gaithersburg area. We are doing incredible things here. So definitely resources available to you to be able to explore. They're out there. Please don't rely on state or county government to fully support your entrepreneurial efforts. After all, they are your entrepreneurial efforts, and entrepreneurship is in fact a risk and should always be taken as a risk. But we are here to help you succeed because we want to see businesses thrive in Maryland and in Montgomery County, because that brings people here, that helps our educated population get jobs. Everybody pays taxes. We can provide social services. It really is the economic circle of life. I'm not going to start singing Lion King, but it really is the economic circle of life that supports our community. So I think I'm going to stop there. I know that Professor Colleton has been putting some questions into the chat. So I will take a stab at a couple of them, and then if anybody else has questions or wants to engage in a dialogue about anything really, whether it's legislative policy, business or otherwise related, or any of the things I've talked about, happy to talk for the remainder of our time. So let's see here. What can we do to promote Montgomery College funding at the state level? Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but Montgomery College lobbies me every year. And they do it in a really good way. They do it in a way to make sure that we understand exactly what you all are going through. I visit the Germantown campus is actually in my district. I visit it on a regular basis. The staff, the president of the Montgomery College, the former president of Montgomery College, Dr. Pollard, she and I would meet regularly. We had each other's personal cell phone numbers. That's not just special for me. She did it for the entire delegation. We met regularly. We had students coming down to Annapolis to lobby us on specific funding programs. We had the Montgomery County Council do it. We work closely with Montgomery College, with the universities at Shady Grove. It's not hard for us to support the college. The hardest part is when we don't know what you need. And so it is absolutely incumbent on your administration to make sure to let us know what we need. But it is a multi-level lobbying effort, right? The students speak to the administration, the students speak directly to us. The students are our constituents, right? We don't have to wait for the college to come to, knocking in our door. You're our constituents. You should reach out to us directly. But we have a very close relationship, and you will always see the Montgomery County delegation supporting Montgomery College in every way, shape, and form. I can drive through, I think, any of the 3 campuses at this point and point to buildings that I have directly supported getting built, including the new math and science building at Tacoma Park, which I was actually quite instrumental in getting the initial money for and getting the state to fund. So, we are there to support the college, but we just need to know what you need. Let's see what else we have here. How do students find out about internships with county and state offices? There are websites that provide it. Your college career services office should be in connection with all of our offices. Specifically, internships with legislators are available. We have an internship office in the State House. However, we don't regularly wait to find out about that. Students contact us. I currently have 1 or 2 internships available for this coming session. If anybody is interested, by all means, reach out to my office. I would love to have MC students. The legislative internships are between 2 and 5 days. Obviously, we know you're in classes, and we know that living in Montgomery County and getting to Annapolis every single day is not exactly the easiest thing. So it's between 2 and 5 days. There is a stipend that goes along with it. It is not a lot of money. It's probably a few $100s for the session. Something that I hope we can change in the near future. I understand, and I hope that you as entrepreneurs understand that being able to participate in a free or nearly free internship is a point of privilege that not every student is able to have. And so that creates a situation where certain people are able to get ahead because they were able to participate in a free internship. And that is not fair, and that is not right. And it's not equitable, frankly. So as business owners, I hope that you, if you have internship programs, you understand the value of those interns. You're not bringing them on for fun. You're bringing them on to work. And so you should pay them to work as well. And that's something that I'm hoping that we change in Annapolis in the near future as well. Let's see here. So there's a question from Carlos. It is, what did I mean by there are several categories in which state works with businesses? So as I said, there are times when the state works directly with businesses through procurement. We as a state need services, and we put out an RFP out into the world, and companies that that provide those services then bid on them through proposals. We also have set-aside programs specifically geared towards small businesses, minority-owned businesses, disadvantaged firms. We have targets. Every department has a target that they need to hit, or they try to hit. They're not always successful, unfortunately, in terms of a percentage of how much of state procurement goes to minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, disadvantaged firms. And we have to try, and each department has to try and hit those percentages, whether through direct contracting or subcontracting. So for example, if we try and build a road or build a building, let's say we're building a school, and we hire a large contractor to build a school, because usually small businesses don't have that capacity. Those large contractors then have to go out and get subcontractors, because the large contractor may not be particularly great at the paving or the plumbing or the electrical. So they go out and get subcontractors, and a lot of times they have requirements under the contract to meet small and disadvantaged firm percentages under their contract. So they will go out into the local community. So connecting to the companies that do, the big companies that do the work to try and get in as a subcontractor is very important. I will add, every state contract is a public document. You should know, you can know, and you can access that information through our Board of Public Works, which is a state agency. Who's getting the contracts, who's doing the work, who are their subcontractors, and there should, I believe there's even ratings as to how well they do the work. So if there's a subcontractor that's not doing a great job and you can do better, find a way to get in with that, to that prime contractor, to that general contractor. So there's a couple ways that we do direct contracting. Then there's ways that we do it indirectly. So for example, as I said, we have a Medicaid program where we provide healthcare services to people who are qualified for Medicaid, right? We give the money to a managed care organization. The managed care organization then gets billed by medical providers, whether that be hospitals, doctors, therapists, social workers, whatever it may be. And then the managed care organization pays that that per service rate, whatever the rate is under Medicaid, to those providers. So that is an indirect, we have a direct contract with the MCO. And so we pay doctors and hospitals and medical providers indirectly for Medicaid subscribers to be able to get healthcare services. So there's the direct category, there's the subcontractor route, there's the indirect route, et cetera. There's a lot of ways that state money flows out to the private sector. Professor Calton has another question here. What skills and abilities do you look for as a business owner in new hires? What kinds of classes should a student be taking? So I'm not a business owner, so I can't really answer that question. But as somebody who was a hiring manager at a federal contractor and had my last job, the project ended a few months ago. I probably had over 120 people at the height of the project under my doing the project. There's a couple things you look for, right? Obviously, you look for somebody who has the minimum education and skill requirements that's in the contract that I have. I was a federal contractor. The contract had very, very specific requirements as to, you know, what your education requirements are, what your experience requirements are. It was a table in the contract, and if I didn't meet that, I couldn't hire the individual. For companies that don't have that kind of prescriptive requirement, you can be a lot more flexible in terms of who you're bringing on. Obviously, you're looking for a specific set of skills, and whatever that job is, I can't really tell you what you're looking for in that individual. However, you're also going to look for somebody who, in my opinion, has the enthusiasm for the work, has the enthusiasm to learn the work. Nobody you're going to get is perfect. Nobody you're going to get already knows everything, because if they do, they're not going to want to work for you. They're going to want to work for themselves. So I would encourage you to give opportunities to folks who may not necessarily have all the things you're looking for. You know, if looking for that unicorn, putting them through multiple interviews, but you see something in a particular applicant who they have the intelligence to learn or the enthusiasm to learn. A couple things that I would encourage, you know, obviously you're all MC students. You're going to want that first or second opportunity if you haven't gotten that yet. Hearing you don't have enough experience for this job is devastating. So when you get to a point in your life when the shoe's on the other foot, remember that you want to bring in folks who are younger, who are eager, who are hungry to learn, and they may not have all the experience, but they have the enthusiasm. The other thing that I would encourage, frankly, is to look at returning citizens. That's a euphemism we use for folks who are coming out of jail and prison. You know, look, at the end of the day, if somebody had a point in their life when they made terrible mistakes, and they went to jail for it, and they served their time, keeping them in a cycle where they can't break out of it is not good for anybody. It's not good for them. It's not good for our society. It's not good for our state budgets, frankly, to be crass. But what you find is a lot of people that are waiting to turn their lives around, and with a little bit of training, you can find folks who may not have been getting the opportunities that they need. And I would absolutely encourage everyone, not knowing what kind of businesses you want to start, but seeing if you can find a way to bring returning citizens into your company as well. It is a service that you will do for society, but it's really also a service that you will do for yourself, because you will find 9 times out of 10 that they are eager and willing to work hard. Just a couple of my thoughts. Again, obviously, I can't speak as a business owner, but I can speak as somebody who has made business owners many, many dollars. So, let's see, how can business owners or other constituents advocate for support from the state? Do you need to go to Annapolis? No, you don't. So if there's a specific bill you want to advocate on, sure, you want to go testify. Maryland is a very unique system that any piece of legislation that is submitted is guaranteed a hearing. It's guaranteed introduction and a hearing. It's not guaranteed a vote, but it is guaranteed a hearing. That is not the case for many states. So you could take advantage of that. If there's a particular piece of legislation that you want to advocate for, and you want to trot down to Annapolis and sit at the table with a microphone and, you know, speak to us directly, you can do that. I will say, starting with COVID last year, all of our hearings have now gone online. And we're actually continuing that for bill hearings. We're not continuing that for floor work. That will come back to being live and in person. But we are continuing that for bill hearings. So you don't even have to go to Annapolis to testify on a bill. You could just sign up online and come and testify via Zoom the way we're doing right now. And if you need help with that, contact your state legislators. Our staff is more than happy to help you navigate that and get you signed up. But you can submit written testimony if you don't want to testify. We do get that written testimony. We do read the written testimony. We read the bills. We read the written testimony. I can't speak for every legislator. Some don't, but I do. The other thing that you can do is just contact us directly. You can email us. My constituents reach out to me on social media all the time. I'm on so much social media, I can't even keep track. Sometimes a constituent reaches out via some instant message on like Instagram, and I don't even know that they did it, and I can't find it for weeks. So please don't do that. Just email me. But I'm of a particular age. We're still kind of transitioning. But you can just email me directly. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube. People reach out to me every which way. Email is still very popular. Occasionally, we'll get a handwritten letter. Maybe once a session, somebody will still sit down, write a letter, put a stamp on it, stick it in a mailbox. We get very excited when that happens. It happens so rarely at this point. But you can reach out to us. I've met with many constituents personally, and I'm happy to do that. And I know that many of my colleagues are. Time constraints for that can be a little more difficult. But if you want to meet in person and you reach out and you say I have an issue and I'd love to chat with you, we'll meet. We'll find. We'll go to an Einstein Brothers or a Starbucks or something. Sit down. I'll buy you a cup of coffee and we'll chat. So there's a million ways to get in touch with us. You don't need to feel like we are distant or that we are, some fancy folks in Annapolis in our offices out in the hinterlands. We're right here. We're right here in your community. And we're always happy to chat. So let's see what else we got here. What type of education or experience is good for running for office? There is no type of education or experience that's good for running for office. The qualifications to run for office in the state of Maryland are, or at least for the state legislature, is you got to be 21 years old, you got to be a citizen of the United States, and you have to be a resident of the district for at least 6 months before the election takes place. That is it. And then depending on how much energy and gumption and personality you have, will determine whether or not you can get elected. People say, how much money do you have to raise? It doesn't really matter, frankly. Money's helpful. Money will print, your walk cards for you. Money will put mail in your mailboxes. For those of you who were around for the election 4 years ago, when we had 36 people running for the county council at large, I'm sure your mailboxes were straining. Mine were. My lit was getting lost in all that mail. But I will tell you, in District 39, we have 3 delegates. You have 1 senator and 3 delegates per district. I came in 3rd place and I had the most money, right? The delegate who came in 1st place, Delegate Leslie Lopez, is a good friend and colleague, and we're running together again. She had significantly less money, significantly fewer endorsements, because not a lot of people knew who she was. But you know what she did? She went and knocked on 10,000 doors. And if you knock on 10,000 doors, and people like what you want to say and like what they hear, they're going to vote for you. They're going to remember you, and they're going to vote for you. So, money is important. Being able to raise money is important, because you do need, some of that physicality of an election. But knocking on doors, that's all you really need. We have people in the legislature who have PhDs, and we have medical doctors in the legislature. And we have people in the legislature that have no degrees whatsoever, barely a high school education, and have been, physical laborers their whole lives. So all of that experience is critically valuable, all of it. The whole reason our founders created a part-time legislature, or what they call the citizen legislature, because to them it was critically important that people be out in their communities doing other things for most of the year, and then bring that experience, be it, doctors and lawyers, professors, teachers, contractors, laborers, whatever that may be, into the legislature, so that we can learn from each other's experience. So there's no education, there's no degree. Everybody learns when they get there. Is it helpful to be a lawyer and be able to read legislation and understand what it means? Yeah, sure. I mean, it helped me, of course. But at the end of the day, everybody can figure it out. If you're smart enough to get elected, you're smart enough to figure it out. Let's see what else we got here. You're on so many committees. Do you get to choose what you work on? Committees that no. Well, I get to choose what bills I put in. Absolutely. Any legislator can put in any bill that goes to any committee. We tend not to do that. And one of the signs that you are a successful legislator is you tend to specialize and become an expert in something. Because what you want to happen in the legislature is you want, if a constituent goes to one of my colleagues and says, you know what really needs to happen is X, Y, and Z, that legislator turns around and says, you know what? The expert on that is my colleague delegate so-and-so. Let me talk to them. Maybe they'll put in a bill. You don't want me putting in that bill. I'm not the expert. You want them putting in that bill. So you do tend to specialize. I have ended up specializing in healthcare policy, something I had no experience in when I first got to the legislature, and state procurement, which is something I had a lot of experience in before I got to the legislature. Those are my two areas of real expertise in the legislature, something I'm very proud of. But in terms of committee assignments, that is entirely up to the speaker. We do have a process in Maryland where the speaker controls all of that. They control who gets on what committees, or she controls who gets on what committees. She controls who is the chair and vice chair and subcommittee chairs on all the committees. It is exclusively within the purview of the speaker. Our check on that is we elect the speaker, right? So it's that check and balance. I spent the first 8 years of my time in Annapolis on the Health and Government Operations Committee. And then for the last 5+ years, I have spent on appropriations as the chair of Health and Social Services. And that has also given me some other opportunities. So being a chairman on a subcommittee chairman on appropriations also puts me on the capital budget subcommittee, which is critically important. It's the committee that decides the capital part of our state budget. There's the operating, which is the 50+ billion. Then there's the capital, which is a little over 1 billion. It puts me on the SAC committee, which is the Spending Affordability Committee. Also absolutely critical because that's the committee that sets our spending levels every year. And we do not violate that. It's critical to have that committee because we as a state are one of the few and probably one of the only that has never lost our AAA bond rating, right? So we have excellent credit. We have the best credit you can get. As a state, which gives us low interest rates on the capital money that we finance, and are able to build more buildings and bridges and roads and transit systems, et cetera. So that puts me on the SAC committee as well. And then obviously there's a couple of others. AELR is the Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review Committee. It's a very unique committee, also something very unique to the state. We, on that committee, we review regulations that are put out. Usually you pass a law and then a department files regulations. The regulations are published, there's a comment period, and then they finalize it. Well, in Maryland, after they finalize it, it comes back to the legislature for review. So every regulation that we put out as a state has a legislative check on those regs to make sure that they are they're in concert with our intent for the legislation. So that's what that committee is. Why did I decide to run for office? That is a long question. As was mentioned, as Rebecca mentioned, I am a Soviet refugee. I came when I was 4 years old back in 1978. And we escaped from the Soviet Union. Were able to come to the United States. Very grateful for that opportunity. My father in particular, not so much my mom, but my father in particular, felt a particular responsibility to be at least aware of the political and governmental functions of our state, because we didn't have that opportunity, right? Believe it or not, the Soviet Union did have elections. They were sham elections and they were very minor, like local. But I mean, they were not real elections. So we really participated here. I was the kid who ran for student government president in elementary school. I didn't win. It's okay. It was my first loss. It's all right. But I was that kid because my dad really infused that in me. When I turned 18, that next election, I was in line to vote. I have never missed a vote, whether it didn't matter to me, how big or small the election is, how often it was. I have never missed a vote in my life. That was just ingrained to me, that is a responsibility that we are handed as Americans to help support our democratic system. So I've always I ran for office in, student government in high school. I ran for student government in college. I mean, I always did it. It was always a part of my lifeblood. When I graduated from law school and went to go work for a local law firm in Rockville, and stopped traveling because I did a lot of international development traveling, finally had the time to really get involved. And I'm probably the only lawyer that you will ever hear say, I became a lawyer and suddenly I had more time. That you rarely hear that. But got involved with local political groups. I joined the Montgomery County Young Democrats. I joined the Germantown Democratic Club. I just got very involved in local political groups. Not the only way to do it. You don't have to get involved in political groups. You can get involved in civic organizations or your PTA, or any kind of civic involvement that helps connect you to the issues of your community. For me, it was a political route. Before I knew it, I was president of Montgomery County Young Democrats, and I was on the board of the Young Democrats of Maryland. I started dating the president of the Young Democrats of Maryland. She became my wife, but that's later. And it was just natural for me to be involved, and I got to know the delegates and the senators and the congressmen. And hey, look, they're people. They're not these distant folks. And then the opportunity came up to run for the Central Committee, which is the county party. I won that election. I got to be able to be on the Central Committee for District 39. And then Senator at the time for District 39, PJ Hogan, retired. And the Central Committee in Maryland, and a lot of people don't like this process, and I understand why. But in Maryland, when there's a vacancy in the legislature, the Central Committee of the county, the party of the retiring or vacating legislator and in the county, makes the nomination to the governor. The governor almost exclusively always appoints the nomination. So the Central Committee that I happen to be on elevated, and I say that tongue in cheek because the House and the Senate are equal, but they elevated Delegate Nancy King to become Senator Nancy King. And I ran for her seat, and I was elected. And it was not just because I was a member of the Central Committee. It was not a walk-in. I actually only won by one vote. It was a 13-12 vote. I got to vote for myself. So not completely fair, but it's the process. And I went to Annapolis, and that was 2007. And here I am next year running for my, I believe, 5th term. So clearly something I still love doing and love to be able to keep doing. So that's the long story about how I decided to run for office.
That's a great story. And that's a story that's between the lines of what you can read about Delegate Reznik when you go look at his history. Thank you. That was fascinating. I certainly appreciate what you've done in helping us see that our representatives are, like you said, they're people too, right? Mm-hmm. That I think is such a gift, and I'm so appreciative. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm also like super proud to be in Montgomery County. The more we talk about the wonderful things that we're doing here in the county, I think the clearer that becomes, and for helping our students who are going to be taking the reins before we know it, to continue with that. So thank you again, and thanks. And I hope that next time you're in the Germantown campus, you'll come by and see us. Our program is in the Paul Peck building, which you may be familiar with.
Great.
And we hope to see you.
It's my pleasure. And I just want to remind everyone, Montgomery County has the largest delegation in Annapolis. We have 24 delegates, 8 senators. We have 8 districts in the county. They are all great. And whether you live in District 39 and want to reach out to me, or you live in one of the other 8 districts, please get to know them. My colleagues are fantastic, and we really work well together. We are very much a family. When we get down to Annapolis, we take care of our county, we take care of our constituents. So please get to know the other 23 and the other 8 senators. And please reach out to them and just schedule some time with them. Even if you don't have a particular issue you want to talk about, even if you just want to meet them. We are more than happy to do that. So please reach out, get to know who they are. And if you ever want to get in touch with me, my website was put up a little earlier, resnikformaryland.com. Contact information is on there. Please, anytime.